A happy Thursday evening to everybody who is watching this video. Yay, the weekend is almost here. A few weeks ago, one of my very first videos that I posted was a reaction video to a couple of segments from a PBS series called Motorweek, which airs regularly here in the US. And those segments covered two different types of NA Miatas, one from the 1990 model year, which was a 1.6, and then a 96 M edition that was like the one I have. So you had kind of two different variants slash bookends of the NA Miata in that reaction video. And very soon after that, I posted my NA Miata buyer's guide, a beginner's buyer's guide video that went over what to look for, as well as Facebook and Bring a Trailer market listings, and kind of guiding you not to overpay as well. So I'm doing the same thing with the NB, and this is kind of the start of that. I have some material that I've already worked on for my NB buyer's guide, but in preparation for that, I've put together this reaction video. We're going to watch two Motor Week segments, just like we did with the NA video, but this time with the NB. We're going to watch a segment on the 1999 10th anniversary NB Miata. And then we're also going to watch a clip on the Mazdaspeed Miata, and I believe this one is from a 2004 model year, so close to the last model year of the NB. But the 10th AE and the Mazdaspeed Miata are kind of considered the two most valuable, or maybe the two most notable NB variants, and they kind of represent a lot of what you're going to be looking for in the NB Miata. So that's why I figured I'd go ahead and make this reaction video to prep you for it. So without further ado, we'll just go ahead and set up that first video here. And once again, the first video is going to be on the 10AE, as it's called in the Miata community, the 10th anniversary NB Miata. One thing you'll notice about this particular video as opposed to the last one is that I've skilled up a bit on using OBS and other VTubing tools, broadcasting tools, whatever you want to call them. One of the criticisms I got was the audio volume of the window capture, the desktop audio, or whatever you want to call it, the YouTube video that I'm going to be commenting on, was loud enough that it was drowning out my voice anytime I didn't pause the video. So anytime I do have commentary, I am going to try to pause, and if I'm not going to pause, I'm going to temporarily lower the volume of the window capture, so that way you can hear me. But that's probably not going to be too often. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to hit play.
It's been 10 years since Mazda shocked and delighted sports car lovers with a wonderful little retro roadster called the Miata. Since then, this superb back-to-basics sports car has established itself in the hearts and garages.
One thing I want to point out in this video is that, okay, so 1999 is the NB1. It was the very first model year in the US. In other markets, there is, I think, a 1998 model year, but 1998 is the gap year among Miatas in the US domestic market, kind of like 1983 is for the Corvette. There's no such thing as a 1983 Corvette, at least in the consumer market. The same goes for the Miata in the US. The 97 was the last year of the NA. 99 is the first year of the NB, probably because it got introduced too late in the 98 model year for it to be called a 98. What you see here is just a, I would say like a base model NB with a 5-speed. The 10th anniversary was in blue, as you're going to see here, but this is Motorweek also did a review of just the base model new NB when it came out. So, but I picked the 10th anniversary because I like it a bit more, and I think the video on the 10th anniversary is a little bit more detailed and informed, and it's better. It's a better one to comment on. So.
Of tens of thousands of fiercely loyal owners. So to celebrate a decade of success, Mazda has released a special commemorative edition Miata. And that in itself is just one more reason for Miata fans to celebrate.
I like this music.
Because this 1999 10th anniversary Mazda Miata offers everything that Miata fans crave and then some. Its eye-catching sapphire mica blue paint stands out even among previous anniversary Miatas, especially since the convertible top shares the body's striking blue hue, while its new lower front air dam with smoothly integrated fog lights, deeper side sills which flow into the rear mudguards, and polished 15-inch aluminum alloy wheels wearing low-profile tires.
Those wheels are absolutely sick. I love how they're polished and 5-spoke.
Give it a ground-hugging stance. The Look at Me look continues on the inside with a two-tone blue and black interior treatment.
You could tell I like blue, by the way. My favorite color. If I had to get an NB, I would get either one of these, or I don't remember what model year it was, either an '03 or an '04 LE. I'm not that familiar with NB nomenclature compared to NAs, simply because I've never owned an NB. But if I had to get an NB, it would be one of those two. I think there's an '03 limited edition or special edition that's in a darker blue. So another interesting thing about this color, and let me go ahead and play the video till we get another exterior shot of the car.
Treatment on the three-spoke Nardi steering wheel, the tight-fitting bucket seats with their faux blue suede center panels and black leather side trim, and blue shifter boot around the slick new 6-speed manual, which sits atop the center console's imitation carbon fiber trim panel. The rest is familiar.
One thing about the shifter and the transmission, this was the very first Miata from the factory that got a factory 6-speed. Every Miata up until this point had been a 5-speed.
Miata with the large analog gauges surrounded by chrome trim rings and straightforward controls for the standard Bose CD stereo and heat and ventilation. Air conditioning is oddly enough optional, even though all other power accessories are standard.
To comment a little bit more on that, the Miata was still offered in bare bones configurations if you wanted it that way from the factory, up through about like the 99 or 2000 model year. Really, the NB1, which is 99 and 2000, that was the last time, for instance, I think you could get a Miata without air conditioning, a Miata without power windows. You could get the roll-up crank windows instead. You could get it without the CD player or the head unit, the radio. So so it was, you could still get a bare bones Miata like this as late as like 1999, 2000.
Top operation.
Oh, so I wanted to comment about this color. It looks slightly different when you see it on a video like this, but this sapphire blue mica, which is what they're talking about, I think it has the same color code as Laguna Blue, which is kind of like a Mariner Blue metallic. It was offered on the NA in 1994 and 1995. Um, I believe in Japan, this color it was very common on later series FDRX7s, and I believe it was called Innocent Blue Mica. But all three, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure they're the same color.
However, remains manual and simple. You flip a couple of latches and give it a gentle tug, and that's it. An easy-to-attach soft tonneau cover, blue of course, covers the top when in the folded position. But the 10th anniversary Miata is not just about looks. Under the hood is the familiar 1.8-liter dual overhead cam, 16-valve, 4-cylinder engine, making 140 horsepower and 119 pound-feet of torque. But in addition to the new 6-speed manual transmission, the drivetrain also gets a Torsen limited slip differential. With such modest Miata power, limited slip will be more of a plus on slick roads than in time trials. Still, we hit 60 in 7.4 seconds and ran the quarter mile in 15.6 seconds at 93 miles per hour, both the same as the last few Miatas we tested. And while our test car's brand new drivetrain was still pretty tight, there was no mistaking the shifter's slicker, lighter feel. But it will take more miles on this car to see if the 6-speed really can make it quicker. Pitted against our well broken in long-term 5-speed Miata, the anniversary car never quite.
I forgot. I watched this video a couple of times, but they tested both the normal 5-speed and the 10th anniversary edition 6-speed on the same um, drag strip or test track in up in Maryland where they filmed this. So It's kind of interesting to see them side by side. They complement each other pretty well.
It managed to edge out its seasoned sibling. But when the road got twisty, we left its predecessor in the dust. That's thanks to stiffer Bilstein shocks and a front strut tower brace
Look
that
at that
nicely
sun
stiffens up the
glare.
chassis. They give the 10th anniversary Miata a more rigid feel and help to quicken turn-in on tight corners. While high-speed behavior is also improved with the firmer suspension giving it a more planted progressive feel at the limits of tire adhesion. Out on our local roads, the stiffer shocks make for a slightly harsher ride, but open highway cruising is much more pleasant. The extra gear up top requires the engine to turn at 400 fewer RPM than the top gear in our 5-speed model. This results in noticeably lower interior noise levels, which to us is reason enough to opt for the 6-speed. Buyers might also wish to add the anti-lock brake.
So so the benefits of having a six speed, and it's not as apparent in the NB generation, but it's very apparent in the ND generation, is that when you're in a five speed in a Miata or even an NB Miata and you're going like 70, 75 miles an hour down the highway, you're at almost 4,000 RPM. And it can get a bit noisy as far as, hearing the engine, the transmission, and the wheels and everything. So with a six speed, I can tell you that driving an ND, when you're at 70 or 75 miles an hour in a six speed, you're barely at 3,000 RPM. You get noticeably less engine noise into the cabin.
Option to the standard four-wheel disc. Our new car stopped in an acceptable average of 122 feet, but suffered from inconsistent pedal feel and frequent lockup. Hardly perfect, but then few back-to-basic sports cars ever are. But it is a better Miata. And more expensive as well. The base price for the Mazda 10th anniversary Miata is $27,325. That's over $7,000 more than the base price of a standard Miata. With the optional air conditioning and California emissions equipment, our car comes to
Speaking of California emissions, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, especially if they're from California, but the NB, I think, was the only generation of Miata in the US that had a different exhaust system just for California. But correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think all NAs were 50 state, and so were all NCs and NDs. But I do know, for instance, like on some model years, the NB for California market cars, they had, I think, two catalytic converters instead of one.
$28,375. While a pretty stiff tab, it's still less than a BMW Z3. So Mazda is confident that all 3,000 anniversary cars will quickly be snapped up by dedicated Miata enthusiasts.
So that may have been the number in the US market, 3,000, but the total globally was 7,500. The fact there's so many of them, the one thing I don't like about the 10th anniversary is that a lot of boomers seem to like it. They treat this car, this is like the NB equivalent of having the 91 special edition in British Racing Green. They made like 7,000 of them, and they're not as rare as they think they are. They're not as valuable as what they want for them, even if they're in absolutely pristine condition. So if you're in the market for an NB and you're looking for a 10th anniversary or you're set for a 10th anniversary edition, please don't overpay for one. And I'll get into that more when my NB buyer's guide video comes out.
And we think that they will be too, because the 1999 Mazda 10th anniversary Miata isn't just another Miata. It's fun, flashy, and very exclusive, and a great way to kick off the second decade of the Miata.
Pouring myself a drink. I love the music to Motorweek.
Motorweek is made possible.
All right, had that on repeat. So the second Motor Week video for the NB Miata that I'm going to comment on is for the 2004 2004 and 2005 Mazdaspeed. This model year that they reviewed is in particular is a 2004. And I think the vast majority of Mazdaspeed Miatas are going to be 2004 model year. There are a few 2005s, but if I remember correctly, a fire at the Mazda factory in Hiroshima kind of nixed all NB production, I think, for that model year. And so Mazda probably just said fuck it and decided to go ahead and, after rebuilding from the tire, just retool for the NC. So the NC came out in model year 2006. So if you have an '05 Mazdaspeed, understand you have a rarer Mazda. You have the rarer variant of Mazdaspeed. There are a few differences between the '04 and the '05. I think the main one is that the Racing Heart wheels that you get on the '05 have these little like indentions in them that make them look a lot better than the '04s. But enough preview commentary for me. Let's go ahead and play the video.
One could argue that Mazda's Miata practically reinvented the sports car, and with it made
John Davis
everyday
has a
driving fun
really
once
dark
again.
tan in this
But as
video.
a new generation of car enthusiasts embraced hopped-up front-driver compacts over traditional rear-drive roadsters, can the Miata still keep up?
They did the same thing in this video. Like, okay, so what you see here isn't a Mazdaspeed Miata. It's a regular run-of-the-mill base model NB2. So the NB2 came out in 2001. It lasted through the 2005 model year. It has a little bit more horsepower. The engine's a bit different. It has what we call variable valve timing. And I'm not going to get into the technical details about that, but the main way to tell the difference between an NB1 and an NB2 from the outside is you can see the front fascia is a little bit different. The headlights are a little bit more angular. The grill, that mouth that you see there, is also a little bit more angular rather than oval or circular like it was on the NB1 and the NAs. And the base wheels that you could get, I think, were 15s or 16s as far as the dimensions go. Mazdaspeeds came with 17-inch wheels, if I remember correctly. But it's funny, like in the last video, they were using a base model NB1 when they were reviewing a 10th anniversary. They're doing the same thing here. They're using a base model NB2, and when this is a Mazdaspeed review, just think that's kind of interesting.
Well, the folks at Mazdaspeed, that's Mazda's performance division, sure think it can. And here's what they've done to keep this little two-seater flying high. Chasing after the hearts of true enthusiasts, the 2004 Mazdaspeed MX-5 Miata emerges with its driving fun and fashion nicely enhanced. This little 2,529-pound rocketeer sits on 17-inch silver-finished Racing Heart alloy wheels, wears smoked-finished headlamps, a unique rear spoiler, and sports a black vinyl or optional cloth convertible top. And as before, it only takes seconds to enjoy that top-down experience. Just flip two levers inside and the top falls back, and that's it. Serious chassis tweaks include a 7mm lower ride height, increased spring rates, and thicker anti-roll bars. But since Mazdaspeed is the best of Mazda, you expect this Miata to serve up some
I think it's probably just the weather in this video. They obviously recorded it on a cloudy day. But look how much that antenna just sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't necessarily mind that, but it was noticeable in this picture. Nowadays, of course, you just get little stubby antennas that are hardly noticeable on the Miata. But back in the day, I mean, this is what you had to do. I mean, this is what came from the factory.
gourmet power on a silver platter, and it does to a point. Fitted with a turbocharger and intercooler.
So I love the interior engine bay look and the red valve cover that you see there on the Mazdaspeed. But when you're getting with like forced induction, turbocharger, superchargers, as you can see, things get a lot more complicated.
And egged on by 7.5 pounds of boost, the tiny 1.8-liter 4 now throws out 178 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque.
And that is almost as much as the ND2 as far as horsepower goes. And I think that's more torque than the NB2.
That's 25% more horsepower and a third more torque than the normally aspirated Miata. Now combine that power with the Miata's newly massaged short-throw manual 6-speed gearbox, and it's like a shot of adrenaline. Pop the clutch and the Mazdaspeed will dash to 60 in 7.1 seconds. Likewise, the quarter mile slips by in 15.4 seconds at 90 miles per hour. While we've driven faster cars, few are more fun. Indeed, power is peppy but not overdone. Boost builds very smoothly with no noticeable turbo lag. You have to use a gentle touch with the shifter to avoid third gear grind, but the reward is a nice steady punch felt at the 4,500 RPM mark. And pure fun also denotes handling. This Miata is very quick to react, yet takes some serious malpractice to kick the back end out. However, once you have tested its limits, it can be a handful to rein back in. But under most conditions, balance is superb. The speed-sensitive rack and pinion steering gives great feedback, and body roll is minimal. Braking is by four-wheel vented disc with standard ABS. They stop the MX-5 from 60 in a short average of 113 feet.
I like how the Mazdaspeed looks angular even compared to other NB2s, especially with that front mouth, the grill, and then you got that lip on the back too. That I really like that.
The system performs quite well. Brakes are easy to modulate with very little pedal travel, yet still are not touchy. Off track and on highway, the ride is firmer than other Miatas, but never harsh. The body structure is tight, yet still transmits quite a bit of noise on rough or sketchy pavement. However, the total experience was much smoother than expected. You might expect a tight fit inside too. That's what an intimate sports car is all about. Actually, legroom is better than you might expect. As for headroom, well, you want to keep the top peeled back most of the time anyway. That also reveals the Mazdaspeed Miata's standard black cloth reclining bucket seats with red centers, red door inserts, and black leather-wrapped wheel, along with shift.
So that red stitching makes it kind of look like the early years of the ND. If you got an ND between 2016, which was the first model year, and then 2019, you got the red stitching, and then Mazda started putting, I think, this white slash gray stitching everywhere on their interiors. And I don't like it as much. I think red stitching stands out better, especially when you have like, black leather, black vinyl. Yeah, the color contrast is better. This stitching and then this color combo kind of reminds me more of an ND than an NB.
Shift knob and handbrake with red stitching. Sorry, kids, you'll have to opt for the Grand Touring package if you must have leather seats. The cabin includes retro-look chrome-ringed gauges and vents.
Notice they brought back the chrome rings. I had previously commented on my NA videos that Mazda did away with the chrome rings around the tach and the speedometer, I guess, to cut costs. I think about midway through the 1995 model year. So 96 and 97 Miatas, even the M editions, they don't have these chrome rings around the tach and the speedo. But they brought them back, I think, with the NB2, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the NB1 with some additions. But yeah, you will start seeing chrome rings with the MB generation again.
Standard audio is a 225-watt 6-speaker Bose sound system with 6 discs.
And notice we've advanced enough years over the course of the NB from 1999 to '05 that, sorry, but you don't get a cassette player anymore. You do get that CD player, and those are almost gone from cars now.
CD changer. And just to remind you what you've gotten yourself into, Mazdaspeed logos highlight the foot pedals, scuff plates, and floor mats. Luggage is a tight fit too. An overnight trip is okay, but a mere 5.1 cubic foot trunk capacity means pack light. But that lightness is also apparent in price. The 2004 Mazdaspeed MX-5 Miata starts at $26,020.
Wait, I think that's less than the 10th anniversary. and this is like what a 5 model years later. So you could get a better Miata at a lower absolute price, not even counting for like inflation.
While a
I
$3,600
think that's
premium over
interesting.
the regular Miata, it's still over 8 grand less than a BMW Z4 2.5i with comparable performance. For a car that delivers all of the power and prowess of the Mazdaspeed Miata, plus an almost unlimited fun in the sun character, that's a bargain. The 2004 Mazdaspeed MX-5 Miata is a great upgrade to an already great sports car. And it just proves that when you start with something so sweet to begin with, it can
One last bit before the video ends. Notice how I think that's the intercooler down there with in the grill. Notice how small it is for a turbo car. Um, so one thing you can do with these Mazda speeds, and I would highly recommend you do it, is get the Flying Miata little enchilada kit. It includes like a bigger intercooler, bigger pipes, and everything you need to actually bring out everything you want in the turbo for these cars. So I strongly recommend you get it. Boost kicks in at a lower RPM than what is stock from the factory, and it's just more fun to drive.
only get better. Well, I hope you'll join us next week for more Motor Week.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed both of those videos. I may have commented a little bit too much and interrupted a little too much, but hey, it is a reaction video. So what I'll say about the NB is, like I said, some people don't like them as much. They aren't as valuable because they aren't as old or into classic status as the NAs are. Plus, as you can see with NAs on both sides of me, they have, the pop-up headlights that all the Zoomers seem to want and everybody else seems to want. But the NB is not a bad car at all, and it's not a bad Miata. It's certainly pound for pound right now, it's the most affordable of all the generations. And we'll get into that in my NB Buyer's Guide video, which should be dropping within the next couple of weeks. A little personal note, I had the chance to buy a Mazdaspeed Miata in '05 that was in, I don't know if it was like in brilliant black or black mica. I forget what they called the color back then, but it just didn't hit me quite right, and I wasn't ready to pull the trigger on like spending a lot of money on a Miata back then. But yeah, I almost bought it, and who knows, maybe a Mazda Speed or maybe another NB will be in my future sometime. So right now, I mean, I can only say I've only ever owned NAs and NDs, but I've driven every generation of Miata, and I think one thing that I really like about the NB is the NB has the best sounding exhaust from the factory. Now, if you modify an exhaust, that's a different story. But as far as stock exhaust go, the NB sounds the best in my opinion. Um, it does almost make me regret not buying that Mazda Speed, but I wasn't feeling it at the time, and this was several months ago. Anyway, I hope all of you enjoyed the video. Once again, like, comment, subscribe. And as I said, look for my NB buyer's guide vid to drop within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it won't be as long as my NA buyer's guide. I'm not going to have to go over that much more compared to the NA since the NB is very similar. I'm going to show a few other clips from that, and we'll go over some Facebook Marketplace listings, bring a trailer listings, maybe some cars and bids listings if there are some available. But look forward to that as well as more content. So until then, have a great rest of your Thursday and have a good weekend. Adios.